Hi there, this is Magmozard, and welcome to my explanation how Tommy, how Tommy is the greatest. What do you mean the greatest? The greatest film, the greatest man, the greatest musical. Everybody forgot. Everybody forgot. Who knows? Okay, everybody forgot who Tommy is, and I'm glad, I'm here to explain. Alright, why Tommy is the greatest. Alright, what if I told you that's all three of them as being the greatest I have ever seen in my entire life? Okay, so here's how it started, as you can see. Okay, here's how it all began. Alright, it all began when I basically added this in my watch list, okay, which I still use, okay. It all began in my watch list. Alright, I added this a random movie because I just wanted to see Elton John in a musical. Yes, okay, that's how it all started. Okay, I just wanted to see Elton John in a musical. Okay, and it was very unexpected. Okay, ever since I watched it at May 2022. Okay, I ended up having more than what I bargained for. Okay, yes, I had more than what I bargained for after watching that movie. Ever since. Okay, and ever since I watched it at my 20th birthday. Okay, ever since I watched it on my 20th birthday. Okay, it actually he reaffirmed as the greatest. Okay, the greatest film I'll ever watch. Okay, no musical could ever top Tommy. Okay, no film or no musical or it could ever top Tommy ever since, in my opinion. Okay, don't worry, it's not everyone's opinion. So yeah, okay, but you might be asking, all right, what is Tommy? All right, what's this movie called Tommy? All right, what's it about? Well, maybe you should ask who is Tommy. Okay, maybe you should ask who is Tommy. All right, who is Tommy about? Okay, because all right, because without any spoiler, all right, without any spoilers from this, synopsis, the life of Tommy. Okay, that's it. Okay, it is literally about the life of Tommy. If if you were to get into this movie, all right, without any spoilers, it's literally the life of Tommy, and that's it. Okay, because all right, don't be deceived from that very simple plot. Okay, because you get the most insane. All right, you get the most insane scenes. All right, that could ever be put in a PG movie. All right, this movie is PG. All right, not even rated R. Okay, and it borders the line of being rated R. Okay, it is very insane. Okay, it is mind blowing. Okay, how insane this movie is. Okay, so don't be deceived from that simple plot without any spoilers. Okay, it's literally his life story. Okay, from literally from birth to you know to pretty much my 20s. Okay, to his 20s, if you will. Okay, so Okay, so here are my thoughts why it's, the best. And I'm glad that I prepared this pentagram called, as you can see, the film score pentagram. Okay, I'm very glad I made this, back, around school. Okay, just to explain how good it is. Okay, but before we get to that pentagram, alright, I want to show you, I want to show you how I even dedicated this movie for a biography of mine, which was, which was for a school project. Okay, back in nonfiction class. Alright, I even included in my, unofficial biography. Okay, titled "How Did I End Up Here?" Okay, let me show you. Okay, as you can see from this cover. Okay, as you can see from this very cover here. Okay, how did I end up here? An autobiography or an unofficial autobiography for school. Okay, I even titled, this file "Story of My Life" because that's what it is. Okay, okay, so here it is. Here are my 10 films as to what I included, which are, which I gotta look back. It's kind of outdated. I gotta admit, or I will say it is outdated in some way. Okay, Mr. Nice Guy, Yellow Submarine, The Abyss, Angel's Egg, Conan the Barbarian, Invention of Destruction, Mandala, Police Story 2, 1 Million Years BC, and Tommy. Okay, that's how important that movie is, alright? Or should I say masterpiece? Okay, that's how important that masterpiece is to me. Okay, or for anybody else who has watched Tommy. Okay, so let's get into this pentagram. Okay, as to what makes it the best, the greatest, if you will. Okay, so let's go in. Okay, for that. So before we get into writing, okay, since the entire film is a musical, alright, okay, uh, let's talk about audio design, alright, which yes does include music, alright, and it's legendary. Okay, the music is so legendary in this movie. Okay, alright, let me tell you, alright. The music is so legendary, this music. Okay, it is, it doesn't need dialogue, alright? It doesn't need dialogue and it doesn't have dialogue, and I love it, okay? It doesn't have dialogue in this movie, alright? Like, that's how good the songs are, alright? It managed to tell, actual, these songs managed to tell this story, okay, because of it. Okay, that's how good the songs are. Alright, even like the sound effects are very seamless. Okay, okay, let me tell you, the sound effects in Tommy are seamless. Alright, mwah. Alright, absolutely seamless. Alright, you don't feel it. Okay, there are times where you feel it, there are times where it feels natural. Alright, happening around Tommy's world. Okay, so, okay, or even like, or even like the non-lyrical, even like songs that have like no lyrics in it, okay, which are probably composed by, not by the Who, but like someone else, I guess. Okay, they're great. Okay, even like the ones where it wasn't by the Who, all right, they're just beautiful to hear, all right, from from this music that I'm gonna play, you know shortly. I hope it doesn't get claimed. Or blocked, which is worse. happens. That's where World War II happens right there. Okay. So yeah. Okay. Alright. Legendary. Alright. Even like the ones that have no lyrics. Alright. Absolute masterpiece. Okay. That's how good it is. Okay. And it's all beautifully, beautifully directed. It's all beautifully, musical directed. Alright, by Pete Townshend. Okay, absolutely wonderful. Okay, for a musical director. Alright, moi, legendary. Okay, Pete Townshend, if you're watching this, okay, you're a legend. Okay, you're an absolute legend. Okay, like what kind of musicals did you work on ever since this movie came out? Okay, like I gotta wonder. Okay, I gotta wonder and I gotta find them. Okay, now as for the next point would have to be, see that? Okay, the visual design. Okay, next point is visual design. Okay, and yes, okay, and let me tell you. All right, it is wonderfully directed. All right, beautifully directed by Ken Russell. Okay, even not only that he has like not only that every scene in the movie feels like paintings. Okay, every scene in that film is like a painting. Not only that, but it manages to but okay, it manages to be blocked very well. Okay, the way he blocks scenes. Okay, are just really good. Okay, like here. Okay, like they feel like paintings no matter what no matter what happens. Okay, like this as I can see. Alright, look at how they're blocked. Okay, as you can see, or even like a screenshot if I can find one. Okay, beautifully directed by Ken Russell. Okay, absolutely legendary. Alright, and yeah, okay, really good. Okay, legendary direction. Alright, making him, making him one of my favorite filmmakers ever since, or since he made other movies as well. Okay, next up would have to be, let's see, performance. Okay, this is like the acting of this movie. Okay, and uh, and as insane as they act, and as absurd as they can be, okay, they actually work, right? Okay, it actually makes sense for the entire film, why they feel crazy, or it makes sense. Okay, why it feels, why it really feels like a stage. All right, it feels like a stage play. Yeah. Okay, and and interestingly enough, all right, I'm very glad. Okay, I'm very glad that Anne Margaret got a nomination from the Oscars because of her performance. Okay, she manages to be nominated from this movie. Okay, for her role as Tommy's mother. Okay, so you could say it's an Oscar. So you could say it's an Oscar-winning masterpiece, if you will. Okay, you could say. Okay, so yeah. Okay, that's for the acting. Alright, everyone can sing in this movie. Alright, even not only like Elton John can act in there, but also Tina Turner. Alright, even Tina Turner, Eric Clapton, even. Okay, or even like even like a non even like a non singer like Jack Nicholson can sing in this musical. Okay, that's how insane that's how insane this film is. Okay, insanely insane masterpiece. Okay, and all right, and pacing. All right, as you can see. All right, finally, before I go to the writing here, here's the pacing. All right, and let me tell you. All right, which is basically the editing of this movie. All right, and let me tell you. All right, the editing is so fast. Okay, the editing is so fast that it never feels like you're watching a 2 hour film. Alright, the editing is so fast. Okay, the film is super energetic. Okay, it is super energetic. You never realize you watched for 2 hours. Okay, it makes whenever I watch it. Okay, it makes me feel like a teenager. Alright, because of it. Okay, that's how good it is. Okay, it puts me, it makes you feel like a teenager again. Alright, from watching Tommy. Okay, like that's how good it is. Okay, and finally, the last piece. Alright, after all that editing, well done editing. Okay, would have to be writing. Okay, and the writing of this movie. Alright, it's pretty good. Okay, as simple as the story is. Okay, as simple as the story is. Okay. Alright. It's all about execution. Alright. It's about how it was done. Okay. How it was possible. Okay. As simple as the story is. Okay. It is very good. Okay. For just being the life of Tommy. Okay. His life is so insane. Okay. It is very insane. Okay, it actually works. Okay, the world building in there. All right, even like the world building in Tommy almost feels like almost feels like a parody of today. All right, of like today. On the on 2020s, despite a movie being from the 70s. Okay, so yeah. As for its themes, okay. As for its themes of this and of his story, okay, would have to be, the layers, okay, would be would be very obvious. Lost youth, okay, because it's because since the movie came out in 1975, there was like the hippie movement, right? Okay, and a lot of grown-ups at the time were very lost. Okay, ever since like like the 60s to the 70s, right? A lot of grown-ups felt very lost during that time. Okay, and and that's what happens. All right, and that's what happened. You get films like Easy Rider, for instance. Okay, so yeah, Kami is very, very lost, okay, in this insane world. Alright. In this insane world, alright, that he's the only sane guy in this entire story. Okay. Another one is society will never understand you. Okay? Yes. Society, okay, or anybody. Okay. Why? Because these are groups of people. Alright. If it all depends as to how many are willing to listen on it. Okay, and unfortunately, Tommy's a guy who never gets to be, Tommy is a guy who never gets to be listened because he, because he is what? He's not only blind but also deaf and mute. Okay, so yikes. Okay, so nobody's gonna understand him, alright, because of those factors as well. Okay, speaking of society, society can't be fixed. Okay, let me tell you. Okay, society can't be fixed no matter what happens. Okay, no matter what you do. Okay, people are always gonna turn on you. Okay, society is gonna turn on you. Okay, if if you don't follow it. Okay, and it's very apparent in Tommy. Okay, very apparent. Money can't fix hearts. Okay, or should I say broken hearts? Okay, they can't fix broken hearts after all that. Okay, after all the chaos. All right. Like no matter what happens, okay, they try to pay, they try to spend their way to fix Tommy, okay, but they try to spend their spend their way to fix him, or be a part of society, but he won't budge, alright, and of course, the very team or the very one team that actually resonated with me, okay, would be freedom over communities. Okay, yes, okay. Being an individual is more important than being a part of a community. All right, like yeah, okay, and and it's very important if and it's also important even with when it comes to having relationships, even like a girlfriend or boyfriend. Okay, yeah, it's very important to to recognize yourself or before being recognized on a community. Okay, so yeah, so sometimes maybe sometimes maybe being alone can actually be helpful. Okay, maybe being alone or being isolated can actually help a person. Okay, just maybe. Okay, over communities. Okay, and yeah. Okay, communities. Okay, like you don't need to be a part of a community just to just to be cared about. Okay, you don't have to. Alright, you don't have to be honest. And this movie teaches this film teaches you that very important lesson. All right, a very important lesson that actually resonated with me. Okay, so yeah, that's so that's for my film score. Right, so that's for my film score right there on my pentagram. So here's some names I forgot, which were for the audio design, which was like additional material for the music by John Entwistle and Keith Moon. Let's see who edited this movie. Let's see. Music director. Musical director, and let's see. Stuart Baird. Okay, edited by Stuart Baird, and cinematography by Ronnie Taylor and Dick Bush. Okay. Yep. Okay. Absolutely wonderful. Okay, legendary film. Okay, so I'll give you some, and so okay, let me give you some part of history. Okay, which could have been earlier, but hey, alright, but you know what? It's fine. Okay, so here's what happened. Before Tommy came out. Okay, so which which is from what I found from the behind the scenes of Tommy, right, called The Who's Tommy: The Amazing Journey. Okay, you can probably check it out on YouTube because it's very rare. Trust me. Okay, so here was like behind the scenes. Here's like what happened here, which were it was Ken Russell's easiest movie ever directed, which is insane. Which is coming from an insane director. Okay, the Who were the band, the who who wrote Tommy. Okay, or $500 million in debt from concerts. And speaking of Ken Russell, he was apparently the first choice to direct this entire album. Okay, yes, this was an album, which explains why the music is too good. Okay, and finally, a ballad was already made back in Canada. In Canada, when the album came out. Okay, and you see it. Okay, there we go. And this is from someone. Okay, this is from someone who's never heard of the Who. Or this is someone who wasn't aware of the Who from watching that film. Alright, never aware of it, never knew them. Okay, but but here I was. Alright, discovered them and all of a sudden. Okay, yep, a fan. Alright, I wasn't even a fan of the Who. Okay, if I see the name The Who, I go who? Okay, you know what I mean? Okay, so yeah. Okay, I'm someone who isn't a fan of The Who because I watched Tommy. Okay, and when Tommy came out in 1975, it was actually a success. Alright, it was a box office hit. Okay, ever since. Okay, it was like it was like a what's this? It was like a trending movie for it was a trending movie in UK though. Alright, not exactly unlike you know other parts of the world like Hollywood here. Okay, it was just a big hit in UK, unfortunately. Okay, because it never seems to be because it never seems to be scored that high on sites like Rotten Tomato or IMDb even. Okay, and for and for what do you call this? And since this movie is pretty much turning 50 years old now. Okay, since this movie turning 50, or just as old as my own mother. Okay, to all to all people out here. All right, to all people out here who are named Tommy or even Tom. Okay, even you, Tom Cruise. Okay, go watch this movie. All right, it's the year. All right, this is the year. I'm telling you. Okay, this is the year to watch Tommy. Okay, it is too good. Okay, if I gotta be honest. Okay, it is very good. Okay, to all Tommies, all Tom. Okay, or Tom, watching this video. Alright, you should watch it. Okay, go watch it. Okay, absolutely wonderful. Alright, magnificent people. Okay. Now, if there were flaws in if there were flaws in this movie, okay, if there were flaws in this, I would say, I would say my only issue with Tommy is, you know, would have to be Tommy's stepfather. Okay, I would say Tommy's stepfather could have been more layered. Alright, he could have been, a more layered character. Alright, but I guess, but I guess providing for his family is, providing for his family is, is a good enough material to work with. Or providing for like the money, or or expenses of of his family. Okay, I wish it could have been more layered though. I will say, okay, I will say though, alright, it could have been more layered, or even like more understandable as as a father. Okay, rather than just being like Cinderella out here. Okay, so yeah, okay. So anyhow, anyways, this is my explanation as to why Tommy, or even then, this is my explanation. Okay, this is why Tommy is the greatest. Okay, the greatest man, the greatest film, the greatest musical, the greatest masterpiece. Okay, everyone seems to forgot. Okay, this is why. Okay, so anyhow, anyways, let me end this wonderful review or analysis. Okay, a very a very unstructured analysis here. Okay, so I say salamat for watching as always. Your ethics, Valia.